get that part done.
I tried to finish it.
Didn't quite get there.
No.
Sorry.
Now, why is the other gentleman here?
We can't start till my thing's open.
I don't know. We'll find out. Oh, we got 3 of them from the airport. Okay.
Why's everybody looking at me?
No time.
Notice is hereby given that the Lago Vista City Council is holding a regular meeting on Thursday, September 20th, 2018, beginning at 6:30 p.m. in the City Council chambers at City Hall, 5803 Thunderbird, Lago Vista, Texas, as prescribed by VTCA Government Code Section 551.041 to consider the following agenda items. Items do not have to be taken in the same order as shown in the meeting notice. Sandra, please note we have all of our council members here tonight. We have Josh, our city manager, yourself, Danny, our police chief, Dottie, our attorney, Dave from IT, and Eric and Star on the back row. All right. If you would, please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, citizen comments. In accordance with the Open Meetings Act, council is prohibited from acting or discussing, other than factual responses to specific questions, any items not on the agenda. I have Linda Bush Warner. Warren, sorry.
Hi, I'm Linda Bush Warren. I'm the 218 Flight Line, and I'm the acting chair of the Airport Advisory Board. And we just wanted to add, for the record, some of the things from your last meeting. Before our AAB meeting, the city had asked 3 of us from the board to recuse ourselves from discussing the funding agreement for the airport. And that was all. That and the fact that we then did not discuss it except for the ones that were not property owners up at the airport. But we had been dealing with it for a year and a half, 2 years, however long it's been going on. I just wanted that on the record. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Linda was the only one I had signed up. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to address council at this time?
I'm not going to stand up because of my leg, but I want to congratulate the council. This is 2 meetings in a row that you've done the pledge properly.
We're working on it. Give us another 6 months, we'll add the Texas pledge up here. And all right, items of community interest. Pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.0415, the City Council may report on any of the following items: expressions of thanks, gratitude, and condolences, information regarding holiday schedules, recognition of individuals, i.e. proclamations, reminders regarding City Council events, reminders regarding community events, and health and safety announcements. Let's see. Community events, we've got this Saturday, ESD 1 is doing a groundbreaking ceremony for their 2 stations, Bronco and Loman. I believe it's 10 and 11, is that the correct time still? Yes. So 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. is the groundbreaking ceremonies for our 2 new fire stations. And, well, I say our community is Travis County ESD, not City of Lago, but It's our community fire stations.
Mayor, I saw Donnie at church last week, and he was talking to a parishioner about the fact that they'd moved it back. But then he pointed out that it was supposed to rain just as much this Saturday as it was last Saturday. So he was indicating they may have to move back. I don't know if they've just made any decision on that. But anyway, just FYI.
I guess we'll know tomorrow.
Yep.
All right, thank you. Let's see, community events. No, the weekend of November 3rd and 4th, we will be doing a community collections event in the Coyote Trail area part of town. So one of the programs that my community outreach group that I have put together is holding. It was, if you remember last year, the beginning of the year, this was the grant money that I was able to receive from CapCog for community collections and household hazardous waste collection. And we couldn't start till after September 1st, but now that September's here, we're rolling, and we're looking at November, weekend of November 3rd and 4th.
Can you tell us where, Daniel?
I'm sorry?
Can you tell us where?
It's going to be neighborhood wide. I don't really know. We're bringing in roll-offs to put in certain areas to help facilitate some of the property owners and renters and stuff that don't have access to pickups and trailers. They, when we have our spring community cleanup event, they're unable to haul their stuff off. So our thought is to bring the dumpsters to them. And then we will be also holding a small household hazardous waste collection. We're looking at doing oils, paint, and electronics at this time to help get rid of some of the old televisions and stuff around that people have stored, paints and oils. And we're not exactly sure where we're going to set that site up yet, but we are working on it. Let's see. What else? Health and safety. It's raining. Be careful out there. Anybody else? When's our next council meeting is the 4th, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, I'll go ahead and announce it anyway. The 5th is what? Chamber
Golf Tournament.
Chamber Golf Tournament. That's a community event.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Mayor Chief Norman confirmed that they are going to still plan for Saturday as the groundbreaking. So
All right.
unless it gets gully washed out, they'll still be there.
Awesome.
The lake is up 2.5 feet,
Saw that. We're at 6,
650, 646.
yes. Almost to June levels from what I've been watching. All right, action items. 1A, consider approval of ordinance. Okay, let's see. Is this one, do I have to read it this way? Or do I read it this way? Okay.
Either one's good.
This one. Discuss and consider the approval of an ordinance of the city of Lago Vista, Texas, adopting a municipal budget for the fiscal year starting October 1, 2018 and ending September 30, 2019, appropriating the various amounts.
Mayor, this item is one of 3 items tonight appearing on the agenda that relate directly to the FY19 operating budget. This first item is the actual departmental budgets. It includes our CIP budget. It also includes the bonding information that we've gone through in our workshop and in our public hearings. The only change from the last meeting is, we discussed last Thursday, we discussed a change in the revenue line item on the golf course. Those changes were made to bring that number back. And so we didn't adjust the expenditures, we only adjusted the revenues.
Mr. Mayor, I had a few things that I'd notated. On electronic page 16, it talks about the construction fund. And I just had a question, and that is, I think it shows that we're going to have a $1,091,000 shortfall for this year, and I was just curious where that money was going to come from.
Electric page 16.
Yes.
The $1,091,256.
Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. And I just was curious, are we going to need a bond issue for those funds, or are they going to come out of reserve?
Do they come out of impact fee?
Let's see.
I'm moving through here. Apologize.
Construction Fund 40, beginning fund balance.
I'm scrolling. Okay, I'm with you now. 1.091, that's if we expend the $6.159. That would be if all of the capital projects from the bond are spent out this year and spent out over what the estimates are. Unfortunately, we don't think that we're going to be completing all these projects.
Okay.
If we did, at the projections, they would have to come from a reserve appropriation.
Okay.
But these dollars, remember, as we already discussed, these dollars are directly related to the bond appropriation from 2017.
And is the issue that these projects are going to end up costing more than we had estimated?
The estimates are coming in even now higher.
Okay.
One of the projects you'll see tonight that's on the agenda has a project that it's actually coming in $60,000 higher than what we projected.
Okay.
And so that's part of where we're at. And so one of the things we're looking at is not even the actuals, but calculating how those projects are going to come in within the next year.
Okay.
But yes, sir, that would be an appropriation from fund balance if all of these projects were presented to council.
Got it. And I noticed in fiscal 17-18, we didn't spend everything we thought we would. So there's more curiosity than anything else. It's the same kind of thing on electronic page 18. It kind of gives a summary, the consolidated statement. There's 3 rows there bolded. The question I had is, if you look over in the second to last column, the total budget request 2018-19, it's got revenues of 20 million and change, expenditures of 24,682, and then a deficit of a little over 4 million. Is that related to the construction and we're spending bond dollars?
Yeah, Mayor, that's exactly, those are all bond dollars. If they're expended from there, then you would see a
Okay.
deficit spending.
Yep.
The revenue projections for the year and the actual expenditures are solid. So we're very excited about those numbers. As you can look at the individual departments, looking at the bond dollars, that shows the impact of those numbers.
Okay. And then the only other questions I had were related to the CIP. I figured I'll just get all mine out of the way and then everybody else can go. On the FY 18-19, you've got the miscellaneous category down there, and there's quite a few things listed, including the new city hall, all listed as unknown with the funding source. I can understand, out years being unknown, but with stuff coming up in the year ahead, do you anticipate knowing where those funds are going to come from?
So each item that comes up this year, if we're looking at the city hall, that would be a fund balance appropriation from this year because it won't be appropriated during FY 18.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it'd have to come from the money set aside from FY 18, which would go into a reserve. Most of these items would work out this way. The actual IT numbers are coming into your presented budget. So that goes from an unknown into the utility fund or the general fund dollars. Excuse me. The Lago Fest generator is another item that's going to come out of the actual budget that's for the year.
Okay. Okay, so bottom line is you have ideas where this stuff's
Right.
going to come
Yes,
from.
sir.
It's not just in the air.
We're just going to wait and see what happens.
Okay.
No, sir. We do have a plan.
Just wanted to ask. Okay, on the FY 19-20 CIP plan, in the wastewater section, there's the one item, the $1.5 million item for the conversion for the type 1 effluent. The only question I had is, I thought Dave Stewart had been here one time before and estimated that number was going to be more like 600,000.
The estimate goes from 692 to 1.5 million. There's a couple things that factor in. If you remember the first conversation that we had with Gary presented this item back to council, I believe in November of last year. And we do have the possibility for additional revenue funds, potential LCRA grant, and maybe even TCEQ dollars. But until we get the hard number in that says what that transition is going to be, if you recall, that's the project we said we'll bring back to council as well, as soon as we get those estimates in.
Okay. So you're showing worst case dollars.
We are definitely trying to go extreme, just like the budget number, showing all the extreme.
If I remember, and I could be off base here, Kevin, there was a discussion about relaying in the middle of the fairway, like it currently, like the affluency currently, or going on either side. So there was a difference in cost based on, but
this isn't the irrigation system. This is changes to the wastewater treatment plant that allow us to filter our water.
Gotcha.
More than we do today. Yeah. But okay, staying on that same page, down at the bottom, there's in the golf course area, there's the irrigation system replacement for $2.154 million. The only reason why I'm asking about this one is if you also move down to the, I think it's the 2122, we show two more irrigation systems. We got a $6 million worth of irrigation system replacement. I got to believe that that's a mistake, that we don't need $6 million worth of irrigation system replacement.
Mayor, I would disagree that we definitely know that there's an irrigation system that needs some work. This one's going to stay in the category of UNK because we definitely do not have a funding line item that's attributed to paying even the $2 million mark. The heck with the total $6 million. We include this within the CIP, as I explained before, because if you don't have it in the CIP, then there's no way to attribute additional funding dollars to it. If there was some magical federal program or state program that came out and said, we decide we want to give you dollars for your golf course irrigation systems, we need to have it here, but it's one of those unappropriated. What we're saying is layered to redo the entire system. It is phased out into 3 phases that could be upwards of 4 to 5 million. I do believe that those numbers are extremely high. These numbers are from 2 years ago. They were completed under Mark. Mark put together these estimates.
And it was it was 4 to 5 million to do both courses, not one course.
And we've not gone back to update this total number at all. We've spent 0 time looking at what it would cost to update it. We're taking the numbers out of that previous plan. And then when we do this full update this year, we'll update this and be moving some of these numbers out. But
I'm fearful if because we're going to post this to the website. If people go download the budget and they get to the CIP, they're going to think, oh, we're planning on doing $6 million worth of irrigation system replacement.
And we can easily remove any item that council wants to remove. If we want to take out the FY21 irrigation line item, or maybe it's the 22 line.
There's 2 line items in 21, 22.
In the 22, we could take out a whole line there.
Well, as long as we're in that section on 21, 22, we've got the list for the clubhouse remodel. I think we're doing that right now. So do we need that item in here?
No, we don't need to have it in there. That's only if we were going to do other remodel projects. Again, as previously laid out, we could redo that bottom section of the clubhouse.
Yeah.
This is what the discussion was.
Okay.
And so that's what this number is.
Okay.
We can easily take things out because dollars for a lot of these projects are going to be a challenge.
Sure. I mean, now that you've explained that, I don't have a problem with that one. But what about the cart paths? I mean, that was always for Highlands. We don't need cart path replacement at Lago.
At some point, we're going to need cart path replacement. So putting the number in, I think I told this to Councilor Smith. Chris turned in a very solid request for everything that we could ever need and squeeze it into 5 years. We do want to have cart path replacement in this CIP somewhere, even if we moved it out to the 5th year. We want to put a number in because we know that if you're maintaining the course, this is an item that you're going to have to do, because the comments that I read from 2 budgets ago was we never did anything with Highlands, therefore the cart paths are all horrible. So if we're not planning for the maintenance and repair long term.
I get that. Part of the problem is that some of the paths at Highlands were asphalt. We got all cement at Lago. So you just don't have the problem of the deterioration at Lago.
You don't have the cracking, you don't have
Yeah.
as many of the issues, so.
Okay, leave them there if you want. I do believe $6 million worth of irrigation is a little excessive. It might be nice to remove one or a couple of those, to be honest with you. Just so people don't think we're literally thinking about doing $6 million worth of irrigation work.
It's gonna be a great system,
Yeah, it should be,
if someone ever pays for the system.
yeah.
So Kevin, just so you know, going into his budget process 6 months ago or so, I asked for two things: succession planning on equipment and personnel. 5 years out.
Okay,
So a lot of this CIP planning is the department heads coming back with their succession planning 5 years down the road. What you don't see is the personnel in here, because that's not really, a big CIB, big dollars thing in there. But that's where a lot of that stems from, is my request on succession planning, so that people can see what we are looking at 3 to 5 years down the road. Now, do we need to put an asterisk in there or something that says, okay, these are,
Not concrete.
I don't want to say
Wishes.
unfunded, because we're not even,
Yeah.
they're
I
not.
have no problems with any of that. I just think 3 different line items for irrigation.
Yeah.
To your point, I do think that it looks like a duplication error on electronic page 83, where it has golf course irrigation system, $2 million, golf course irrigation system. That looks like a duplication.
It does, it's really not, though. It's put in there for laying out this plan. And as I said before too, I think removing both lines is feasible. And Counselor Smith had pointed this out on some other things. We can remove both lines so we get that number down, so people know that in 3 years, we're not looking at 9.8 million. We could be looking at 5 million plus or minus. I think it's.
I actually really like the mayor's, or I don't remember if it was the mayor, Kevin, that said in asterisks on these sites and say these are not yet funded, right? That just so the community knows we haven't committed to spending these dollars. They're just long-term planning and ideas.
They're not mandates, so you can't call them unfunded mandates.
They're not budgeted.
They're unfunded
Unfunded,
Thoughts.
yeah.
wish list, desires, I don't know, possibilities.
Yeah, and we can clarify those, saying that
Yeah.
they're unfunded at this time. As we move that year into the actual year of the budget process, that's when they receive that budgetary designation.
I'm done.
Thank you.
I've got some questions. Page E31, police. I'm looking under the expenses, and I see a drop of $84,000 on the total expenses. I'm trying to figure out why it would drop $84,000. And you might tell me it's the police cars being paid off and we don't need it, but the issue would be if we're gonna build a piggy bank in front of us for car replacements or asset replacements in the future, I would have thought that that money would have remained in there for the purpose of going into, if you will, savings or an escrow account for future capital expenditures for like police cars or trucks. It dropped from 1.872 to 1.787, or about $85,000.
Give me a second and I will pull up that breakdown.
It seems to be in supplies and services, so it's not labor.
Well, you're looking at what year-end estimate, that's based off actuals from last year, right? And the base budget is for the,
Yeah, what it'll actually turn out to be is very close to the year-end estimate this year, and next year's budget will be extremely close. But we'll see what
I'm
the
just trying to
changes
figure
are.
out what's happening in police that would cause that kind of a drop. It seems kind of a lot for a 1 year change.
We'll just pull up the pages. It hasn't changed, so it's been the same for every.
Well, you put a $25,000 supplement in there, so that may be some maintenance contracts or something like that. I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah, I'm just looking for individual.
Well, we did have some fixed asset stuff that dropped off. We also have reoccurring
expenses every year, and some of those we've been able to eliminate.
Mm.
And, you know, like I say, we had it quite a bit higher, our city manager, with red pen.
They do that from time to time. I know Melissa did that too.
Rest assured, I don't think at the 1.813 that our chief or any of our police department's going to say we can't protect and serve in this city for that amount.
I didn't say that.
I'm just saying, he's sitting there and he's going to remain there.
We're good.
It looks like it's out of operation and maintenance, so if you had a fixed asset cost that is
We had
finished.
plus, on the IT, our IT director is kind enough to absorb some of our expenses.
Well, that just means we'll see it in another account. That's all that means. When you squeeze the balloon, it pops out somewhere else. So,
Pretty much.
Yeah, and going back to your capital,
40,000 of it's from personnel and benefits.
We had some officers leave that were at the top end of their salary scale too, and when we replace them, we do that in accordance to experience levels, so that was a little bit of money too.
so you've got a couple larger items here, what we talked about before. Paying off that capital does take a drastic impact with what was remaining on the principal balances of our vehicles. If you look at two that were just purchased last year, being able to pay those off in their entirety takes off a number which effectively lowers their annual budget. And then, as Star just pointed out, the change in insurance results in a savings back to each department. So you still have, virtually you're going to have more spending for the next year than we do in the current year, but you're taking out these other items, so.
my concern is that if we pay off the police cars and we're now free and clear, a few years from now, we're gonna have to replace them, and I don't see any place where we're, if you will, I thought it'd be in the fixed assets. Maybe we can move it off to some escrow account, and it builds up over there, and then when it's time to buy replacement police cars, we write a check, is what I understood all this was about.
That's correct.
So where does the money make it to the savings account?
Capital project, that'll be in your capital budget. So what the plan is,
Capital
yeah, because it's going to be a capital expense. So what we're going to do, we wouldn't put dollars into the fixed assets that aren't going to be spent in the year. If we're saving any dollars, they either go back into the reserve account or they go into a capital account so that we're buying them for cash.
And the capital account's the one we're gonna have earmarked, right, with all the different.
Correct. So remember, we went over this in a couple discussions, and I think there's
So you're not planning on selling bonds in the future to replace cars and trucks?
definitely not.
So where's the money coming from to buy them?
From cash that we set aside.
Doesn't that show up here, or does it show up in another?
No, it definitely wouldn't show up here, because the only thing that shows up in the annual budget is what we're actually expending that year. The reserve accounts set up as our fund balance accounts that show that reserve until the year, come next year, we'll be buying more police cars. You'll see us do a transfer from a capital account into our operating budget, and the expenses will come out of the police department.
Okay, so
Because all those future purchases, as we've said, is they'll be cash purchases at that point.
And when you say capital account, it's not because you plan on capitalizing things, it's you plan to buy capital assets with it.
Correct.
But it's still gonna come out of the
that
reserve
was where I
fund.
was coming from.
That's right.
It was a little confusing, but I think I got it.
Well, the people on the business side think of it a little different than the governmental side.
We did write a white paper on that that's in the budget that explains this whole theory for the business side of things.
Okay, over the-
It's a great point, but that's our plan moving forward,
Okay.
is we're paying the items now instead of putting them in the operating.
Okay, over to page 43, B43. I'm looking under revenues, and there's three line items in particular. One is $20,000 in new membership fee, that's a growth. The other one's $22,000 for tournaments, and the other one's $34,000 for facilities rental. And so my question is we've never done those kind of numbers in the past. You really believe that's gonna happen in the future?
And Mayor, my first answer is, this is what we were instructed to do by council last Thursday. And so we did exactly what we were instructed to do. We put the numbers here. And second answer, just from my perspective, from staff, is we're confident that we can make this happen.
What's facility rentals? Is that us renting it out to citizens or companies to use the clubhouse, or is that revenue expected because somebody's running a restaurant and they're paying essentially a rental fee?
The latter. If we can get revenues from someone that wants to rent it out, please send them all our way. We'll take it.
Okay, and then on the expense side, a little bit farther down, we go from bottom line 139 to 34,000. That's about a $100,000 drop. I guess we're not selling beer and wine and food and all that stuff. Is that what that means?
Correct, yes, sir.
So we're out of the restaurant business?
We are out of the buying supplies, pay people to work in a restaurant business, for sure.
Okay.
That's the point where we all rejoice, by the way.
Page 80. This is, I'm now switching over to CIP. I don't know if y'all remember a chart like this that we had put up about 6 months ago. This is a pipe replacement strategy chart. I don't see anything in here on pipe replacement. We do have 20 miles of PCV pipe that's in the ground that should have been replaced around 2005. We're now 13 years beyond life expectancy. I probably expect those pipes to start blowing soon. I mean, over on Boone Street, we had our 14th break over there a few months ago. I don't see anything in any year that deals with pipe replacements, even though we went to a great deal of pain to try to figure out when we thought that those things might need to be replaced. And I see nothing in here for 20 miles of PCV pipe. And I'm just surprised that it's not in there. I've discussed it twice, hasn't made it in here yet. Are we going to give up on replacing our water distribution pipes for PCV? Or are we just going to fix them when they break?
Mayor, great point by Councilor Smith. We are actively, recall, looking at the pipe replacement plan that Councilor Smith and Councilor Weatherly have pointed out based on our street project plan. And so with the new GIS employee, we're going to get an actual length of old lines, new lines. We're going to develop this plan that shows us exactly what we have. And that's another project we'll be presenting back to council. If we had a number for replacing those, we'd get that to you here now. That's a priority, is to be able to replace our lines to make sure that everything's operating as efficiently as possible. One of the items on the agenda tonight is 2,000 feet of old line. That's the
That sounds like Boone.
Civic Water.
Oh, it's Civic. Okay.
And so that's the project that we have before us for the bid tonight. All those projects, they're going to be here, but we need to have better cost. We could change out $2 million of irrigation and just put utility infrastructure, and it would be a good solid number, just because it would be a big enough number of people to understand that it's going to take some effort. But we want to use that chart to update it to get some solid numbers back. That's all part of that street improvement plan and the infrastructure.
Boy, I'd love to see something in the CIP, whatever year you want to put it in and whatever number you want to assign to it, but just recognizing that this is a huge need for the city.
Well, this, I think this will precede major street repairs.
Well, it should happen in conjunction, shouldn't it?
It could, it doesn't have to, it'd be preferable. But my issue that I'm having right now is when I look at the 5-year CIP, I see 0 pipe replacement in there. So what that tells me is that we have absolutely no plans to do anything in pipe replacement. And yet we're already 13 years behind life expectancy on PCV pipe.
Mayor, the clarification though, if you look at it, instead of a generalized CIP, what it does is, if you look in FY20, you've got $1 million in water, you got another $1 million in water, you've got wastewater, that's $100,000, another $100,000. You've got, if you look to FY21, there's $900,000 in wastewater. There's another $525,000 in wastewater infrastructure.
But those are identified
But they're large numbers so it's not zero, it's large numbers going into infrastructure in the course of a year. I mean, I think that's a significant number for what we're doing. And then there's the add-ons of the overall system. Until we have an engineered plan, we have these identified projects that are massive expenditures. So we could put general placeholders, and I agree with you, to put it in there and say X number of dollars, like we would say for streets, we're maintaining that. We can add those to even FY20 to go ahead and put some number in.
My concern is I'm not running for reelection. I'm going to fall off, and other people are going to come in behind me, and they're not going to recognize that we had this discussion tonight, and it's not going to be identified as an area to look to fix in the future. And I was looking for specific line items in this budget. Even if they're undefined, you can put a ROM out there if you want to, a rough order of magnitude number, call it, $1 million if you want, but you have something out there to start the process, because we got that, and then right behind it, in the very next year, we got 2 miles of galvanized and 4 miles of iron ductile iron that we've got to take out also. And that's coming up on life expectancy right now. And look, I realize that nobody's done anything with these pipes since inception, but we're at the end of the road. We can't kick the can down anymore. We're at the end. And I'm looking to put something in here so that my successor, your successor, will look at that and says, oh, they had something in mind and this is what it was. Not that there's a substitution that's going to occur based upon a September 20th meeting that we had in 2018. I'm looking for something more precise than just,
You're looking for that succession plan.
Well, this happens to be with pipe, not people.
Well, it doesn't matter whether it's a plan for success.
Mr. Mayor, I will say that Eric and I have been in discussion about finding first these pipes, because although we have an estimate on the mileage and how far they are, we really don't have a very good idea of where they are or exactly what it's going to take to get them replaced. We have discussed coming up with a project, coming up with a plan to replace this pipe, and as part of that, to also fix the street as we do it. I think it needs to be a combined process, and it may be something that at some point we may have to look at a bond to take care of. It may end up being such a sum that it becomes necessary, but the thing that we need to get right now is a handle on where it is, what it's going to cost, and then we can start moving forward on getting it taken care of.
So in my time in business, and I've done a lot of capital projects over my years, nothing happens until you get money. Okay, you got to get money first and then plans follow. Even detailed plans. And a lot of the data that we need is on paper copies that's in filing cabinets that have to be dug out and compiled and analyzed to figure out what in the world to do. But if you don't even have it out there, I don't think you're going to get much motion on it other than somebody might find it interesting. And I find out that interesting doesn't generally work in the business world. You need specifics. And so even just to have a ROM out there of $1 million or $2 million just to start, I don't know what it costs to do a mile of PCV pipe. I really don't. I don't know if we're going to yank the old pipe out and use the same trench, or if we have to retrench. Those are like things that make big differences in your money. But the point is that it's not even on the radar screen is my issue.
Right.
No, I hear you, and I think we need to put it on the radar screen, but I'd have to say that, and obviously you have more business experience than I did, but I asked for $1 million last week, but I sure as heck didn't do it without a very detailed plan on what I was going to do with that $1 million.
This is, okay.
But to Ron's point, if we can go to the effort of putting $6 million worth of
I
irrigation
agree.
at the golf course, we can't put some placeholder in there and a plan.
Totally agree with that. I just disagree with the idea of trying to assign a dollar figure with it until we have a good idea.
We don't have the requirements.
Yeah.
And until you have that, it's merely a guess.
Correct.
Mayor, if we get to that point when we go to approve, I would say that if we do that, we add it into FY20, and you go ahead and we earmark that $1 million on the water system improvements, $1 million on the wastewater system improvements. And I think that gives us that planning mechanism that we know the numbers there, and then we can, we'll update that more specifically as we get into our CIP update. But that's great.
Okay.
Also, okay, on the next page, this is 1920. I think all the golf course needs to move to the last year. I don't know if Kevin mentioned that or not. I don't know why we would spend $3 million on renovation and irrigation replacements so soon. That's just a year away. To me, I think that some of that stuff needs to move out and wait for the golf course operations to prove themselves before we go out and sink another $3 million into an enterprise that is yet to make a dollar. So I suggest that one needs to be moved to the 5th year. The next one, 2020, 2021, we have something there called AMI replacement. It's under water distribution. And you got $900,000 on that one. I bet that one probably hasn't been defined out either. But I remember back in 2011 and 2012 when the AMI came up, I was a big proponent of that because it takes people off the streets and puts it on the computers. And we basically save 4 people every month from going out and having to touch meters. The big thing that I noticed back in that day is it was $600,000, not $900,000. It was spread over 3 years. And what we did during that time is we divided the time into thirds and did a third each year. But after we got through the 2nd year, we got our processes down pretty good. And we actually made some good headway. And so I asked Bill Angelo at the time, I said, well, can't we step it up so we can get our savings back quicker? And so we did, but he didn't use the staff and the processes that we had in place. He subbed it out, and they came in with a different process, which caused problems to citizens' homes, backup problems and things like that. In fact, that's where the concept of the badges came from that you wear, because those contractors went to people's homes where they had backups on their sewers, and they weren't identified. And people didn't know who these people were. Hey, you're out there messing with my water system, and I don't even know who you are, and now I got backup on my system, and you're presenting yourself as city, and yet there's no badging. And my point being is that if we do this in-house, I feel good about it. If we sub it out, I feel less good about it. And the other thing is it appears that you're going to try to do the entire city in 1 year. Now, it's possible to do it in 1 year, but we're probably going to have to give something up to do it. Because it's going to take 2 or 3 people to go out there, because you got somebody that's got to screw it in, somebody that's got to do data measurements and check RF frequencies to the tower and make sure that they all read. So my only concern here is if it gets subbed out, we better have a good handle on their process, because we lost control of the process on the last third that we did in 2012, 2013 timeframe. So I don't know what this means exactly. It looks like you're going to do it all in 1 year. Is that what's intended?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that would be a capital item. That is a bond item that you would do, especially $900,000. Okay, and then under Public Works, the next one below, the impact fee study. I don't think that should come out of debt. I think that should come out of impact fees, where you have the source in there. And then the last one on there is the airport. It talks about new airport lounge and restaurant. Is that really $2.5 million?
It could be anywhere from
Is it
$1 million to
a
$5
hangar
million.
with a restaurant inside of it? Is it 2 buildings? Is it 1 building? What is it? Does somebody have an idea?
I do have an idea. Yeah, it's a wonderful process. It's a hangar space on the bottom. It's office FBO space on the 2nd floor, and it's a restaurant on the 3rd floor. It's going to be beautiful.
And I assume it'll need a pilot's lounge as well, and a nav
That'll all
lounge.
be included in this whole magical thing. This is also a placeholder. It's something that we've talked about would be an awesome thing to add, and it's another thing that if we're going to be pitching this idea to TxDOT and to FAA, it has to be in the CIP, so we want it in. 2.5 seems like a pretty good number, and
Wouldn't it be a 25-75 split? Us 25, them 75?
Potentially. It's kind of a bigger, different style project. So since we don't know how they would potentially fund it, we couldn't guesstimate it. I mean, even.
So you're showing the total cost.
We're told.
We could get grants to cover a large part of this, but you're showing the whole.
We would hope, because we know that we don't have 2.5 million just to build that. But
Right.
we know it's valuable. Restaurant overlooking the world at the airport. You're gonna love it. I'll pick you up when it's open. Not in a
Well, I
plane.
have to wait a while for you to pick me up, though, that's the thing.
It's gonna have to wait a while. But if we get it in, and then magically, we've talked about with everyone, we've talked about the idea that if TxDOT decides they have money that they'll designate to us for some of these things, then we'd like to take it. Well, as we're putting together that project, this is our chance to say, we've got it in here, we've been planning for it, duh. We need to probably get it a little more closer to the planning stages, but
You're not planning on operating that restaurant there like the golf course, are you?
I figured we'd just run it right into the ground once we get a new building. We would definitely lease it out like what the golf course is, because we don't want to operate a restaurant.
That's all I had. I was looking for the big items. Most of it's in the future, as you can tell.
The CIP is a great wish list to have, and we want to make sure we're laying out all this wish list, that's for sure. And that's the directive that we're getting back to our department heads as we update this whole process. And when I say that, we're rolling out a whole new format for our capital and projects. And we want that to be an exciting thing for us this year, but we're also going to vet the projects a little more in depth so that when we bring this back to council later this year, hopefully you'll see improvements on it. You'll see a little more thought process put into it. Some simple things as how we long-term plan for IT, how we long-term plan for all of our vehicle turnover maintenance projects. We're going to incorporate all that in more thoroughly and more efficiently. It'll be a great planning document when we're done.
Well, and just to go back to Ron's point, if we're gonna put our wish list together, we gotta make sure that infrastructure is in there.
100%.
We gotta have a placeholder for that. Because we do not want that to go unnoticed.
Now, those are the big ones that I see in front of us.
Would there be any problem with adding a line item in the water distribution pipe replacement? Is there?
Yes, sir. And Mayor, that's what I was recommending is that the changes that I would have on here now, based on the comments that have been made to the CIP, are in FY20, we would add water line replacements, $1 million. Wastewater line replacements, $1 million. In FY21, remove irrigation, $2 million. In FY21, we changed the funding source for the impact fee study to using the impact fees, which is how we have it laid out this year, and then adding the description to the overall CIP plan that says these are unfunded items until the actual annual budget is approved. All those so far.
Gotcha.
I've got one more. I think that we probably, in pursuit of additional grant funding for the park, should add another line item in 2021 so that you can set yourself up to get a third grant. In association,
That's Cedar Breaks Parks and Wildlife Division Parks Grant.
I'm sorry, I meant 22. That would be the, just so that you have it in there for to show them when you
It's in
apply
there
for
in
your
20 It's in there.
I want it the following year as well.
It's in there
I
in
think
so.
2020. It's 2020.
Right, it's 21, 22 is what I was asking for.
Mayor, right now we have FY19, we have 20, 21, it's all right down under 22.
Right. And it's,
That we add that.
and it's not my intention that we would spend additional funding there. I just think it would help garner further grants.
What value do you want to put on that?
I'm the same as the other ones, so you know.
I I wrote 500,000 down, but I could change the number
It
to
doesn't really matter, I just want to, I want you to
You didn't
have that
change my number.
whatever.
position.
Which one? I did change them. I put $1 million.
Whatever amount that will help you get more grants for additional park spaces.
Okay. So that gives us effectively what's been mentioned, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 changes to the CIP.
Got it.
Mayor, I have a question about the CIP fiscal year 2021. Under streets, we have street sign replacement. Is that going to also incorporate the changes that we talked about earlier where we have misspellings of names?
We have to agree
Wait,
on
hope
those.
That's a detail.
Once we, Mayor, once we figure out what the actual spelling is with a super majority vote of the council, then we will definitely do that. We're gonna do some of those this year.
I will take charge of that.
Mayor,
To the school teacher.
I'd request if we get a different council member to take charge of that. And that you approve that in the CIP, by the way, that. Yeah, so all that,
He's got an election between now and then.
so those are great points, and as Councilor Smith said, it is that detail, but that's also the street replacement plan comes the signs and the infrastructure. I mean, we're talking composite system plan here that gives us all the detail that we're gonna ask Eric to lay out and have this wonderful presentation on whatever that day is. So when it happens, it's gonna be comprehensive. We're not leaving anything out, even spelling.
Do those numbers include wayfaring signs that we talked about? Or
No,
is that
nothing on the Wayfair signs
Okay.
at this point. Because again, I don't have any, I can't even guesstimate what those numbers are gonna be. Even in talking to Cedar Park about their wayfaring signs changes, and we have 3 books laid on my desk about this. I don't know if we're talking about $20,000 or $2 million in terms of signage, but I guarantee you that plan comes to that process comes to the council this first quarter of FY19. Because we want to have the discussion and request that citizens come be involved with this process. So it's going to be an inclusive process.
Nice.
Got it. I'm looking up virtual reality with heads-up display in your vehicle so that you're driving through town,
20 million.
it'll tell you exactly where to go.
We can put that number in there now.
Will the VR cover up the potholes in the
You
street?
can't see them at all once you put your VR goggles on.
Excellent, excellent.
Now, the police budget just increased by 4 million as
Right,
well.
right,
But as
right.
long as we're all in, we've got a good system.
Uh-huh.
So, Mayor, once we get to that point, I can reread these items for the CIP, but if, when we make a motion, if you just state the fact that we want to include these changes, we'll make those changes before production.
Well, can I make a motion to approve an ordinance of the city of Lago Vista, Texas, setting and approving the municipal budget for the 2018-2019 fiscal year with the changes we discussed in the CIP?
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. For further discussion, please note this is a roll call vote. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
That's a roll.
Aye. Oh,
Roll call.
I thought you
It's not
did.
Sanders.
I thought roll call was you raise your hand and you went down.
No, you start with place
We've
one.
never done that in the past.
I've slept since then.
Not much, though.
All right,
Your deal.
place 1,
Aye.
place 2,
Aye.
place 3,
Aye.
place 4,
Aye.
place 5,
Aye.
place 6,
Aye.
and myself is an aye. All right, motion carries unanimous. All right. Agenda item posted, ratification of tax levy for budget.
Mayor, so the next two items, as we're looking through here, our documents, the next two items are related back to the actual tax rate for the year. So you have another ordinance, which is the third item. And then you have this item here, which is ratification of that tax rate, declaring the increase based on the valuations and to use the taxes to provide for the budget.
Okay. So after our budget item, is this where I'm at?
Yes, sir.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, after budget item. Okay, this vote, our next vote is in addition to and separate from the vote to adopt the budget. This vote is to ratify that the property tax increases the tax revenue to support the budget for this fiscal year.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to ratify the municipal budget for fiscal year 2018-19, which raises more revenue from property taxes than in the previous year.
I second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Again, this is a roll call.
Aye.
So, hang on just a second. I want to make sure, because Ron gave me a look like I still did it wrong, so I wanted to make sure I was. It says city secretary, am I supposed to allow her to, or can I just call? Okay, place one.
Aye.
Place two.
Aye.
Place three.
Aye.
Place four.
Aye.
Place five.
Aye.
Place six.
Aye.
And myself is aye. All right, ratification carries unanimous. All right, so let's see, ordinance number 2002, so I'm on this one. All right.
Mayor, this third item, this is the final item that's directed especially for the FY19 budget. This is an ordinance, it's ordinance 180920-02, and this is the ordinance that effectively sets the tax rate. And what it's doing is it's declaring that we're going to have additional revenue this year. It's a 0% increase in the tax rate, but it sets that tax rate for the fiscal year.
Okay, so this is ordinance number 18-09-20-02, an ordinance of the city of Lago Vista, Texas, levying ad valorem taxes for use and support of the municipal government of the city for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2018, terminating September 30, 2019, providing for apportioning each levy for specific purposes, and providing when taxes shall become due and when same shall become delinquent if not paid. This vote is in addition to and separate from the vote to adopt a budget. This vote is to adopt that the property tax increases the tax revenue to support the budget for the fiscal year. They seem so similar, I can't tell if I'm reading the right thing. All right.
Mr. Mayor, I would move that the property tax rate be increased by the adoption of a tax rate of 0.65 cents or 65 cents per $100 evaluation, which is effectively a 1.5% increase in the tax rate.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Mayor, I do want to clarify, the language is personally horrible, but this is state-defined language. It's not something, it's similar to what you did last year, so it's not new. It's just a little frustrating for the fact that when someone reads it, you see first that it's an increase of the tax rate, you see second that it's an increase of the tax rate, but what it means is it's the overall increase of the dollars that are coming in for us. The tax rate is staying consistent at 65 cents per $100 valuation. And for the 6th consecutive year, it's going to remain that same rate if approved by council.
Okay. Thank you. All right, any further discussion? All right, roll call vote. Place one?
Aye.
Place two?
Aye.
Place three?
Aye.
Place four?
Aye.
Place five?
Aye.
Place six?
Aye.
And myself, aye. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you all. All right, I can put that piece of paper away. Getting close, where we at? All right, number 3, discussion and consideration of ordinance number 18-09-20-03, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, pursuant to Vernon's Texas Codes Annotated, Local Government Code, Chapter 102, Section 102.007B, providing for amendments to ordinance number 17-09-21-01 for the fiscal year beginning October 1st, 2017 and ending September 30, 2018. Amendments to said budget by department are set forth in Exhibit A attached to this ordinance.
Mayor, this item is very clearly what you stated in terms of making amendments to the current operating budget for FY18. We included an exhibit that lists out those amendments to those budgets within your agenda packet. A number of those adjustments were based on paying off that short-term debt. You have to pay those items out of some operating expenditure, and so we did that out of individual budgets. As we alluded to earlier, those items come out of those departments, and you'll see those changes here. There's not a revenue line item that needs to be amended because we don't need to amend revenues that exceed the expectations. We just amend the expenditures.
You're just amending the budget to match your actuals.
Yes, sir. The projected actual for this last month or so that we make it, and we don't exceed our expenses.
In the case of, on page 95, under water services, about the second line item down, water taps and extension expenses, up to just under $500,000 proposed. That seems to be the effect of using contractors instead of in-house help. Is that what's driving that?
Mayor, actually, this is just all those extensions. So what it actually is, we have the other line item in the revenues, but this is the extensions, whether we're doing them in-house or whether we're using contractors. It's the incredible increase in the number of extensions that we're doing.
So it's a function of growth?
It is. I wouldn't say 100% growth because we did contract out, but I would say it's 90% an element of the growth. And ensuing, you see that on the revenue side where we have the increase to cover these changes. The water and the wastewater lines are very similar in terms of those taps and extensions.
Also down under Fund 40, capital improvements, what's the significance of the asterisks on those rows? Is there, what's going on with those that have an asterisk? There's no definition of an asterisk. It's on the CIP.
Like taxiways.
Yeah, like,
Page 96.
yes.
I'm there, and I cannot answer that. Counselor Smith, Starr can answer that.
It represents multiple properties and multiple lots that are in consideration, not just one set one, so that we don't open up a separate account every time we purchase one.
Okay. Now, I guess the last question that's got lift station skate improvements, $20,000. Last time I spoke with you about that, we were supposed to be done with the lift stations at the end of this month. Will we in fact be done with the SCADA systems for the lift stations by the end of this month?
As far as I know, we only have a few more changes to do. It's going to roll into next year, but
we've had issues with water plants and raw water intakes, so our SCADA guys have been concentrating on what's main issues versus.
So we've been distracted. That's the alert system. If something goes wrong with the water or sewer systems, that's how our people know the act. The reason why that's even there was we had a lightning hit on one of the SCADA systems and knocked it out. And we had a reportable offense, so we wanted to make sure that we just took care of them all, so we don't have to deal with that no more. Okay, I see no problem.
Anything else?
Are we to a motion?
Yes.
There's
Mr.
no
Mayor?
further discussion.
I'll make a motion that we accept ordinance 18-09-20-03.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. Number 4, discussion and consideration of resolution number 18-1769, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, authorizing creation of an employee benefits trust, designating all members of the City Council to be trustees of said trust, authorizing the trust to purchase various forms of insurance for the benefit of city officers, employees, qualified retirees, and their dependents, and approving a transfer of assets to the trust.
Mayor, this item's a little different. This item goes for the change in our employee health benefits for next year. We were provided with an opportunity to save an additional $13,000 or so on the year by creating this trust account. As you can imagine, what they're asking, the provider, is we earmark the dollars, but putting the money in the account so they know they're going to be paid. It's a phenomenal method, and so it's like a bank draft, but with all the money in the account. So they said they'll give us a credit of $13,000 and some change if we don't break the chair. And
It's my footstool.
and so we said, we'll definitely present this back to council to see if council wants to do this. From staff side, we love the idea of saving $13,000 and some change. There's a couple opportunities here, and Dottie's team has reviewed this. We could make the staff as the trustees, but typically what you're seeing is councils are the trustees because you are the body that approves such documents. So we presented this document to you for your consideration so that we could save more money next year.
Josh, what does the staff feel about the new insurance? What kind of feedback are you getting from the staff about the new insurance plans?
So far, it's been great.
Okay.
Lisa's finishing up. She's been working nonstop on getting all the transition done. We did our last week. We came in here. All of us came into these rooms for 2 meetings, and they presented the information. Real positive feedback on the health savings account. That's been a real big value. And then rolling out the information about the added levels of employee insurance. I'm hoping that everybody's going to take advantage of that. So we have people that are employee spouse, employee child, employee children. I hope they take advantage of those. So we'll just wait and see what the final.
Is that city funded or employee funded or both?
Both. Yes, sir. City funded to the employee, and then there's the.
Then they got to put in something?
They do, but yeah. So anyone that goes more than the employee pays the majority of it, and the city now puts in $320 towards that.
Is this an automatic transfer from their paycheck to this fund? Do they have to do electronic transfer, or do they write checks?
It's an automatic. We do it through payroll, and then the payroll puts it automatically into the
You want to do it that way, Ron, because
Sure.
the health savings account is pre-tax money, so it actually saves them additional money in their healthcare costs.
Josh,
So this,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It mentioned something about us as trustees meeting to do this, that, or the other. Would we simply do it during a normal council meeting?
Everything we do would go through council meetings.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
And so this trust, is this a one-time lump sum deposit?
Well-
Or is this,
Annual?
how's this done? Well, yes, annual, but is it a one-time lump sum? deposit that we put in there to make sure that money's there?
Well, we actually have a couple options, and it'll really depend on how Star ends up setting it up, but she's waving at me, so if you don't mind.
And what's the amount?
It's
I'm not sure the amount, it was an overall savings of 13, it was more than $1,000 over the course of the year. It has to come out every payroll, and we're gonna put it into that trust account and the reason we're doing that is to avoid the premium tax that we would have to pay otherwise.
Right, okay.
Otherwise, we'd be paying 6%, so this is avoiding the whole 6% as long as we continue to put it there and from there get it to the insurance company and pay, and we're saving 6%.
Oh, but it's done bi-weekly with payroll as, not, it's not a one-time.
And the employee chooses how much they want to put extra in their health savings account, so they can individualize it.
Well, that's gonna be under a different.
That's a
program.
different-
Okay.
We've got umpteen programs now, so that will have its own little set of things and
Yeah.
be governed that way, but just the health insurance, that's the only thing that's gonna run through the trust.
Gotcha.
Mayor, on these
But
trusts,
we don't know the amount?
Probably 200,000.
Not off the top of my head, I don't know how much it is every payroll, but it'll be however much that premium would be for that month or quarter, or however they wanna set it up in the end.
I just wondered if we could put it all in there and get 0.1% interest on that.
You wouldn't
200
wanna do that because this is employee money.
Okay,
You wouldn't wanna put in, because we're gonna have people come and go and come and go, we just wanna put in exactly as much as we need to pay on premiums for that given time period and then on to the next one.
okay.
And when it gets deducted from employees' paychecks, it sits there for a very short period of time and then goes on to the insurance company, is that correct?
Correct, and it's our portion of it, it's only gonna be to cover whoever is employed for that pay period too.
Got it.
So,
Got it.
just keep just enough, if we just don't look like a wash, in and out, in and out.
Good.
And it'll save us $13,000.
I think the overall savings, I was thinking it's actually a little bit more than that even over time, but it's 6% of whatever the total annual premium
It's a good
cost was gonna
program.
be. It was substantial. We didn't let them do it all, and we let them do it all, they would just fill that 6% into the rates and we would absorb it. And then pieced it back out for fun, but by doing this trust, we're allowed to actually avoid tax.
Awesome. Good, thank you.
I make a motion to approve the resolution number 18-17-69.
Go ahead.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the motion carries unanimous. All right, number 5, discussion and consideration of ordinance number 18-09-20-04, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, amending Chapter 1, general provisions of the Lago Vista Code of Ordinances to provide for City Council rules of procedure and to apply the rules of procedure for commissions, boards, and advisory committees, providing for severability, providing for a repealer, providing for publication, and providing for an effective date.
Mayor, this item deals with the rules of procedures for council and in turn comes back to the boards and committees that are set up by the council. We've discussed this maybe 7 times. It has been to a subcommittee, which is great, and now it's coming back here. I did provide you a updated copy of the ordinance right in front of you tonight. We got, this is back from Dottie's team that would be our official ordinance for adopting this. We did include in here the full rules of procedure. And so it's here for debate, discussion, and comments.
Oh, okay, so supermajority.
Yeah, there are a couple of changes to that ordinance. You'll see that on page 2, the section 1.1803 clarifies the action as supermajority. If you go back through there's a table presented in the rules of procedures that lists these items out, which is very nice. I think Councilor Davila pointed that out as a cheat sheet per se, so we know how those actions happen. This is one of those clarifications.
And that's the only changes.
Yeah, there are a couple other questions. Dottie had a couple other questions, and I'm trying to decipher through them.
So, my question's out.
Yes.
The motion to postpone that we talked about last time would have been on page 10 of your rules of procedure, right after motion to remove from the table, and that didn't get put in there, motion to postpone, and it would say this motion, if passed, allows the council to postpone an item to a date certain, and then that way you don't have to go through the procedure of having on your agenda, we tabled this, motion to remove it from the table is an item, and then you consider the motion. So it just kind of eliminates the putting it on the table, if you know the date certain that you're gonna consider the item.
Got it.
So we can just add that paragraph?
Right.
Okay.
And I can send that to Sandra to put in here, but we weren't given a Word version of the document to insert stuff into. So that was one of the items. The supermajority, I think we covered that. The 7.1, all standing boards and commissions are detailed under Article 7 of the charter. That's not really correct. The Building and Standards Commission is not referenced in the charter. So the charter allows for the creation of commission and boards by ordinance. So for 7.1, I would just strike that.
Strike that out?
No, just put, there's an easy way to fix that. Just, instead of saying all standing boards, just say boards and commissions are detailed under Article 7. Just take out that all standing language, because whatever the charter says, it's what the charter says.
Okay.
So. And then.
And you'll send that to Sandra also?
Yeah. And then in the repealer, we were asked by council to go through your city code and make sure that anything that was inconsistent with your new rules of procedure was repealed. The provisions for, that we commented on, when you look at 7.6 of the rules of procedure, only P&Z, buildings and standards, and Board of Adjustment have set 2-year terms. And so those sections that we put in there would have to be repealed. Because, and those sections apply to the library board, Parks and Rec, and golf course advisory. I don't know if we really want to repeal that or not. My recommendation is just to, from 913.04 to 9.202 to strike that, because you do have a comprehensive repealer that anything inconsistent in your code with your rules of procedure is going to be automatically repealed. So I think calling it out like this may take up too much in your code that needs to stay in there. So that's my recommendation, to strike 9.134 up to 9.202. So strike the 9s.
9.202?
Correct. And then with that, I think the ordinance adopting your rules of procedure, you've gotten everything correct.
There you go.
Okay.
No, what about 1.331, city council meetings?
So I thought we were going to change that to rules of procedure. Did it not say that?
Here in enactment on the first page, it says Chapter 1, Article 1300, Division 3, Section 1.331 of the Lago Vista Code of Ordinances is hereby amended, and after such amendment shall read in accordance with Attachment A, which is attached here too. So is that saying?
So it'll be rules of procedure instead of meetings.
Okay, but I guess my point is that the content of 1.331, I think, is duplicated in Attachment A. And so it seems like some of this stuff needs to go away that's already out there.
Correct.
Yeah, it's like 1.331, 1.332, 1.333.
So we did try to, in the body of the ordinance, you've got 1.332. The rules of procedure are going to apply to city boards, city commission boards, and advisory committee. And then those remaining 1.33s are repealed under here.
Right here, okay.
Okay, yeah, I see 1.33, 1.334, but what about 1.332?
1332 is amended to apply your council rules of procedure to the
Okay.
boards.
I'll be quiet.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay.
Okay, we thought, we were diligent,
Awesome.
so it was,
Mayor, you ready for a motion?
You're ready.
Okay. Mayor, I move that we adopt ordinance 18-09-20-04 with the amendments that have been noted by our legal counsel.
I second that.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
One last thing, this becomes effective when we pass it, or does it become effective when you replace the board members in January?
And that was my question. What's the effective date of this?
Well, this would be effective once we pass
As
it,
soon
right?
as
As soon as you sign it.
Because it applies to both us and the,
Okay, so it's incumbent upon all the liaisons to
Advise.
train their teams, if you will.
Yes.
right?
correct. And we did put the penalty in there. There was a question as to whether or not certain conduct could be penalized under this ordinance. There are a couple of things that you could, so we did add that. So when you have an ordinance that has a penalty, you have to publish it. So, and then it becomes effective in accordance with law upon publication. So we'll, Sandra will do that.
Okay.
Got it.
Man, I better get out my checkbook.
We should propose throwing M&Ms at people who,
Is that the penalty?
I think that should be the penalty.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. God, I got studied. Number 6, discussion and consideration of ordinance number 18-09-20-05, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Lago Vista, Texas, amending Chapter 1, General Provisions of the Lago Vista Code of Ordinances to provide for procedures to implement City Charter Provision Section 3.21, investigations, providing for penalties, providing for publication, severability, and providing an effective date.
Mayor, this item to provide for, to define the powers of the city council as being the investigative body initially came to us during the city charter discussion. We talked about this. The city charter, section 3.21, does state that the council shall have this power. So we put together the ordinance and the items for defining the procedures, and that's presented before council for, I think, the third discussion.
This is Art, you're the one that pointed this out, that we had it was in the charter. but we
Councilor
never-
Sullivan originally pointed it
I'm
out.
sorry.
Yep.
Okay,
It said we had one and we didn't.
right.
And so we.
I knew there was a couple of things in the last few months that have come, that said the charter, we had this, but we couldn't find it.
Right.
This is one of,
Right.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance number 18-09-20-05.
I'll second that.
all right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, motion carries unanimous. Number 7, discussion and possible action regarding recommendation of contract award for the construction of the Civic Loop Waterline Project.
Mayor, this is one of those projects that we were talking about earlier in the infrastructure projects. This project was included in the 2017 bid bond proposal package. What it is, we put together the bid proposals. We were very excited. We had 11 bids come in. That's fantastic. We're even more excited that the bid was in the amount, the low bid was in the amount of a number that was very close to the engineer's estimate. You'll see on the staff summary, the engineer's estimate was 1.2. 1.84, and the actual low bidder from Austin Underground was 1.32, so very close. This is part of an overall package of water projects in the 2017 bond package that Star informed us that we have estimated 2.9 million available in that line item for the bonds. So this project of 1.3 and the other two projects in there, we feel confident we can get them within the engineer's estimates closely enough to be able to fund all the projects.
So is this close to the bond figure that we have in there?
Yes, sir.
I mean, you gave me the bid information, but I'm saying, what did the bond say?
So what happened, the bond labeled out the overall project number of the 2.8 million or 2.9 million.
But there was three of them, I thought, that were in there.
And then we went back and I believe Gary did the split between the projects. So this number of 1.2 is the number that split out the three. So the 2.9 and this one was estimated at the 1.2 within that. So obviously we would have a few dollars difference that would impact the other two projects, but it's right in line with.
Is this just water? It's not wastewater?
This is water.
Is this going to improve our pressure? Oh, what pressure plant is that? Is that 6 over there?
That's the civic loop pressure plate.
Is that going to improve the pressure over there by the elementary school and all that?
Yes.
Please, so everybody at home can hear you.
Thank you. There are a total of, just for the benefit of everyone, there are a total of 3 projects. So there's a civic loop on this project. There's a tank replacement project on Loman 4, replacing an older tank. And the other project was replacing the Butler tank. However, on the Butler tank, we've made some operation changes to where we're actually able to increase the pressure and still maintain chlorine residual, which was one of the issues that we've had in the past, just changing the operations a little bit. So there's a good possibility we may only do minimal work on one of the 3 projects.
Does it take all 3 of the projects to get the pressure where it needs to be in this area?
No, sir, only 2, the Butler tank and the civic loop water line. So the other project, which is a tank replacement, just replacing an old tank that was really never meant to be a water tank.
As, if I remember correctly, this was going to cause some traffic disruption on Main to do this one. Is that correct? Do we have a time frame or plan for when we're going to do that?
Yes, ma'am. Contractors here from Austin Underground. The plan is to get them started, and in the next 6 months, we should have this all wrapped up. So the main work is going to be along Loman Ford. So we'll have to block a lane of traffic we have to work on. And then around the school and around Dawn Drive, and I can never pronounce the name, Pokalong?
Pokalong?
Pokalong.
I used to say Pokey along, but I was.
So how long will Loman's Ford be down to one lane on that side?
Perhaps Gary can help us answer that.
On that one left-hand lane, it's probably gonna be a couple of months.
Couple months?
Yeah, it's
Those
gonna be a stretch.
on YouTube, a couple of months.
Left hand, you're saying southbound or northbound?
I'm sorry, be your right-hand lane, coming into town.
On the east side.
Okay, so northbound.
We had initially wanted to try to do this over the summer months to not disrupt the elementary schools or I'm just putting it out there. I know construction is construction, but if there's any way that we can try to do that work when they're closed for the holidays, I think when you think it's been a while since I've dropped somebody at the elementary school, I'll be the first person to admit that, but as I remember, it's quite a nightmare. And making that worse might be a challenge for the school. So let's try to work with the school district if we can on that.
I don't think they do, well, not that I'm disagreeing. I'm just saying all their parent drop-offs and stuff is now at the rear of the school.
It is.
The only thing that's up front is the buses, so there will be.
Yeah, but they drop off at the rear and then they come out. They exit
On that
onto
little
Dawn.
side.
Yeah.
They go past the Aero Brake business back there, past the church. They line up there in the afternoon to pick kids up. Just, yeah.
So it can be, and they don't have any other way to direct that traffic. So we need to work with them on that.
Do we have a timeline for when you're going to begin and end?
Right, and we'll just talking about it with the contractor. So as soon as the contract is approved, then we'll get all the bonds and insurance paperwork together. And after that, it should only take a couple more weeks. So we're looking at a month at the very most.
To break ground.
So if you could maybe just tie off with Darren and see how we can work that in. I think that would be a good idea, so that we don't get mobbed by angry parents.
We'll communicate with them.
So you're talking October, November, and December then? As far as that street being done?
Well, they would likely start along Ford and then move down towards Dawn and the other streets in the neighborhood.
Mr. Mayor, you ready to entertain a motion?
Of course I am. If there is no further discussion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we award the contract to the Civic Loop Waterline Project per the recommendations of our city engineer.
I'll second that.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, the project is approved. Contract's awarded. Consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are to be considered routine by the city council and will be enacted by one motion. There will not be separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Number 8, approval of the following minutes. August 2nd, 2018 regular meeting, August 16th, 2018 special called meeting, and August 16th, 2018 regular meeting. Point of order. I was absent on the 2nd. Do we have to pull that and have a separate vote on that, or?
No, the rules of procedure is if you read the minutes and you generally agree with that, you can go ahead and vote on it, even if you were absent.
All right. Awesome. Any
Mr. Mayor,
questions?
I'll make a motion. We approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Hearing none, consent agenda is approved. Unanimous. Work session, we have our city manager reports.
Mayor, I don't have a report listed. There was something I was going to give a report on, and
Political signs.
political signs, and I totally forgot what I was going to give a report on the political signs. What we are going to do is, Roy is working with Dottie's team to put together the actual report. We're going to make a press release out of it, and we are going to get that information out as soon as they're ready. I was talking to Councilor Sullivan one of these days, and we were going back in emails, Roy and Dottie, about getting the regulations out. So my thought is, as soon as the first part of next week, we should be there. I forget the days we are out right now from the election, but we'll have this out as soon as they're ready.
47 days.
It's at this point, I mean, you're seeing all kinds of
Yeah.
signs popping up anyway.
Not local, but.
Not local, state and national. It'd be pretty silly to say that you can't put your signs up at this point.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But we'll have it officially out.
But the other thing I was hoping that you would touch on is, the rules around, you gotta have them on private property. You have to have the permission of the landowner. Is it gonna be similar to real estate signs, commercial signs that can be 5 feet from and then you can put front and back? Anyway, because there were, we've had conflicting thoughts on what we can and can't do, and it'd be real nice to have a consistent.
And Roy has it. He did leave early today. He was tired. It's a lot of issues. But I know we have it, and I'll actually send him a text. Maybe by the time we finish, if he's got the document that he's already sent me, I'll pull it up and we will get it out. We'll press release it and then make that an attachment so everybody can see all the regulations that we have there. So I will get it. My page is there. This Saturday and tomorrow and October 6th, the Leos are accepting cereal for the Ronald McDonald House at Lowe's. I believe that's going to be all morning. I think that's the plan. So anyone that can participate, get by our Lowe's here in Lago.
That's a great program with the Ronald McDonald. I don't know if you've never experienced it, but I did a lot of work with Ronald McDonald, and they really appreciate that program, so.
It's real easy to go inside and buy it and come back outside and donate.
And my thanks to the city manager for including that in his report, as I forgot it at the beginning.
I had it on my paper.
Do you see how I work within the system, Dottie?
Apparently that's all I have. There's a lot of items that we will be discussing, so those are not going to be in the report.
All right, future meetings. Number 10, consider our schedule and items for future council meetings.
You've got the library long-range plan listed for November, and we've been talking to them about them coming at the October 4th.
It's on October 4th.
Oh. Mayor, we provided you a handout that updated that item for the October 4th.
So sorry.
So we did, I had it moved around, but yes, Sandra got it corrected from where I had it. So the library long-range plan and the RA POA agreement, and then any follow-up from the political science discussion will occur on the 4th.
It doesn't look like we need to have a meeting on October 18th.
At this point, we're looking.
That's what it looks like to me.
We have nothing on the agenda.
Mayor, I'd like to possibly have an update on scenic cities for the next meeting. Give you an update on where we are with that process.
All right. I have one put penciled in for October 4th. CapCog, I know y'all have seen the email. CapCog wants our participation in this clean air, whatever it is. Ron presented some points. I sent that, his points, I sent that in an inquiry to them.
Okay.
And they said, well, you've got so many points, let us come make a presentation. So let's see what they have to say. I told them I would put them on the agenda for the October 4th if they were available. I haven't heard back as of yet, so I don't know, but you can pencil a CapCog presentation in for.
The 18th looks like a good date for a good presentation.
Yes.
Right now, there's nothing on the agenda. You're
Well,
not hearing what the
30
council's saying.
I heard what you were saying.
They want us to pass a resolution by October 26th. So I told them that they, to follow our agenda, they had to be here the 4th, and we would vote the 18th if we wanted to pursue it.
CapCog resolution is now on October 18th.
One different one.
If it makes it out of the presentation stage.
Right.
I have two items. I heard today that, Silverton Homes down there by Owens, where we had the infill incentive, I guess Brown has bought some property in the vicinity. So I guess Silverton has now sold their land to Brown because they don't want to have their homes next to their high-end homes.
Right.
So my question is, on the infill incentive, does that incentive transfer from Silverton to Brown or not?
It's all expired. It was only good for a year.
Well, and we didn't assign that to a particular developer. We just said we were going to extend the lines down to that particular area on our dime.
They never took advantage of it.
No, Silverton did build.
Oh, did.
They did 10.
Some number of homes down there, yeah.
Question is, did we, gosh, okay.
I
can't
just
discuss it.
wanted to, I didn't make you aware of it, and number two, is it transferable or not? That was really all I was trying to find out. I'm not trying to discuss it, so. Second one, this one's probably gonna be for Arch, on the building codes.
Yes, sir.
We have sidewalks required in our subdevelopment regs. This would be for like Tessera, Montechino, Hollows, things like that. But we don't have sidewalks in the building code for like Old Lago, which is, where a lot of the Brown homes are going. Question is, I don't think we have sidewalks in our building code for those homes. Question is should we? Now, I realize it's gonna go in as patchwork. You know, the new homes might get the sidewalks, the old homes don't. But I bet there's some enterprising person out there that could probably come in if they mobilize cement trucks and everything. If they could go sell those lot owners in between on that. I'm asking it for it to be considered. I'm not asking for action. I think you gotta look at it before you take action. But could you take a look at that?
Yes, sir.
For sidewalks for the old portion of town, not the ones that are the big tract that owns by hundreds of thousands of homes.
So we're talking about Highland Lakes Estates, Country Club Estates?
Mhm.
Yes, sir, I'll do that.
That came to me, I thought that if we're gonna do sidewalks in some areas, we just need to think about a strategy for how do we infill the rest of the city. And I like that, at least maybe the building committee could discuss it.
On that October 18th meeting, the P&Z and the building committee have been working together. They're starting to form subcommittees to work together. It might be helpful to just bring you up to date, maybe on the 18th, on where they are in their process. They're trying to look at Chapter 3 and Chapter 14 and try to consolidate what needs to be in Chapter 3 and not have it duplicated in both sections, and make it a little bit easier. They're looking at the unattached buildings. They're looking at all the different areas, masonry and everything else. So I think if the building committee and planning and zoning are working on that, it'd be helpful if we know what they're working on, so that when they finalize their decision, it's not like we have to analyze it all over again. We're right there with them instead of being caught off guard.
Right.
So.
To that,
We used to do joint committees back in the day.
Yeah.
perhaps at that time, and this may be too fast, October 18th might be too fast, but I know that over the last several meetings, we've talked a lot about occupation contract, certifications of occupation having to do with landscaping. And our pushback had been that we need to rewrite the landscaping ordinance. So potentially, if we could have something by that time period to look at from
And they're
them.
working on that right now.
Cool.
Okay, yeah.
I hope it has the word native plant in it a lot.
I've seen it at least once.
I would like to note that the 18th is our action, third Thursday that's reserved for action items. If it's discussion items, I'd like it to be on the first meeting of the month.
Sure.
So, I mean,
Well, then just roll it back to the November 1st meeting of the
2nd.
month. Yeah, that's fine. I'm fine with that.
Then you've got a new council.
Excuse
Then
me?
you've got new council that has to be re-educated.
no, because they don't come in until November 6th, and they won't be approved until November 14th.
16.
I had a whole other meeting.
The 2nd and the 14th,
Yeah.
or the 16th.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You're just gonna have to tough it out.
Well, I won't be here the 2nd. I'll be in Ireland.
Well, you can scratch the landscaping off the agenda for November 2nd. Shortens that meeting.
I don't know when we might want to do it, but at the Meet the Candidate night for the LVPOA on Monday, they talked about the fact that they are working through the effort of having a liaison to the city.
Josh Roberts or something like that? Is that his name?
No. They haven't taken any action yet, but they are discussing whether they should have one of their board members be a liaison to the city. And what I'm suggesting is we may want to investigate that, and if they're doing that, we may want to mimic that and have someone from our council be the liaison, and those two can work.
We have a liaison sitting right next to you.
He's
To the POA,
when did he get assigned that?
When I get assigned
a
that?
long time ago. You just forgot.
Right now.
It's on the list.
Is it really?
Yes.
Oh, well then I take it back. I didn't realize.
And,
I'm
way to go,
fine with
Dave.
that. No one told me.
I don't remember doing that.
I didn't
We went to
realize they
another
were
meeting
putting
together.
I didn't realize they were putting it on their agenda for consideration or action, but I think his name is Joshua Roberts.
Well,
That
I don't know.
Really familiar.
They were gonna make
I
one
got
of,
the email asking me if I thought it was a good idea, and I said, yeah, it's a great idea.
yeah,
But that's the last I'd heard on it.
okay.
Yeah, when I
Well, they
first,
talked about it on Monday.
when I first heard of it, I wondered why we needed another liaison when we already have one on council to them. So is it really necessary to have two liaisons? One of theirs to council and ours to,
Sure. One of our board members, that talk- or one of our council members that talks to one of their board members.
Yeah, that's
Like you
fine.
could have a beer once a week. We'd have
Kind
great
of
relationships.
discussing
fine.
this
We're-
topic,
yeah,
and it's not posted.
Sorry, it doesn't need to be an item, since we have somebody.
Issue is resolved.
Yes,
I think you just violated one of the rules of order.
yeah.
It's not been signed yet.
I still think that we should potentially throw M&Ms at people when they violate the rules of order, just saying.
so what, Adam?
M&Ms,
And when,
that should be defined.
Okay.
Is that it for future council meetings?
I think so.
All right, executive session. That's what y'all all been waiting for. Number 11, we will convene into executive session pursuant to sections 551.071, advice of counsel, 551.072, real property, 551.074, personnel, section 551.087, economic development, Texas Government Code, and Section 1.05, Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct regarding A, pending or threatened litigation pertaining to cause number D-1-GN-16-0024883, Villa Montechino LP versus City of Lago Vista, Travis County 200th District Court. B, consultation with legal counsel and discussion concerning possible real estate acquisition, management, or divestiture and attendant matters thereto. C, consultation with legal counsel regarding contractual claims or possible claims or charges, contractual modifications, and questions related thereto. D, consultation with legal counsel and deliberate economic development incentives for projects located within the city of Lago Vista. And E, consultation with legal counsel concerning conflicts of interest with Lago Vista Golf Course Restaurant operator. And we convene at 8:17 p.m. All right, let the fun begin.
I think Dave forgot, we went to a
Yes,
POA
coffee,
meeting
which
together.
reminds me, I'm getting some.
We were first
I did not
assigned
make
all
it
of our
those.